This video is brought to you by my two books, Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist and The Blues Guitar Bible. Want to learn about modes, harmony, scales, chord substitution and keys? Or maybe you're interested in supercharging your blues guitar rhythm and lead chops. Whatever you're interested in, I guarantee you will be hitting the fast lane to progress with either of these works. Both feature video demonstrations and tutorials, loads of tabs and jam tracks to play along with, and I promise you, everything is explained in crystal clear plain English. Check out the links in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. That was the latest tune from this little vanity project of an album that I'm putting together. Like all of the tunes on this album, they're all named after snacks and treats that we gave our dog, Dougal. And I'll drop a picture of him in the edit. Yes, so far we've had Gravy Bone and Paddy Whack and Bull's Pizzle and a bunch of others. This one is called Pig's Ear because that is what he gets for supper on an evening. Yeah, usually when the wife's trying to watch Coronation Farm or EastEnders Street or whatever it is that she's watching, he gets one of those just to occupy himself. And yeah, it's turned out better than I was hoping, this one, it has to be said. I did have a little bit of a wobble halfway through when I was putting it together, and I documented this in the Patreon blog that I write for the Tier 2 supporters. But it all worked out nicely in the end, as far as I'm concerned anyway, and the only person I'm really trying to please is myself, if I'm honest. But I hope you like it too. And here is a little bit of a breakdown of how that tune ended up going together.
Here is the explanation.
Right then, I guess the beginning for this particular tune was that intro. Literally, the intro was the beginning. And, well, let's just go through how I thought that sort of chordal kind of riff thing up. I've explained this many times. If you want to know what are the basic 3 major chords in any key, just do this little bar chord trick. So you play the E shape, then stay at the same fret and move to the A shape, and then move that up 2 frets. And whatever those 3 chords are that you get, those are the 3 chords in 3 major chords in the key of whatever chord it was you started on. In this case, the chord I started on was B, and then that gives me an E and an F sharp. And depending upon which one of those chords you kind of shine a light on, which one is the one that's sort of the musical centre of gravity, you will perceive those chords in different ways. This is where we start talking about modes, basically. So, you know, you could do the old wild thing where everything is gravitating back towards that B chord, or you could go up to the F sharp chord and do maybe something like this. Where everything's focusing on the F sharp chord. You would call that the Mixolydian mode. But what I did here was focus on the E chord as being like the tonal centre, the tonality, if you want the posh word for it. And in order to keep that E chord sounding like that's where everything needs to land and resolve to, the simple thing to do is just keep an open E string conveniently placed there, so you can keep that going underneath it. So I had an E chord going to an F sharp chord with an E bass. Interesting sound, isn't it? And then a B chord, which I played down here, so I could keep the open E going. So a B chord, but with an E bass, and that gave me this little thing. And you can hear how it resolves nicely onto that E chord. That is what we call the Lydian mode. And in terms of playing over it, you know, the best starting point really is to just start with the pentatonic that fits. So we've got an E major tonality here, and then I can play over that with an E major pentatonic. That will sound okay. But then we start digging around in the other chords, and we can see that this F sharp chord has an A sharp note in it. So we can add that in. Here's my E major pentatonic with some A sharp notes in it. Like that. And then the B chord, whether you play it down here or up here, has this D sharp note in it. So I can then get the E major pentatonic with the A sharps that I've already added and the D sharps. That is the E Lydian mode, or you can look at it, going back to where we started again, we're actually using chords from the key of B major, remember? You can look at it as a B major scale, but with the emphasis, the focus, the centre of gravity shifted towards the E note. And, you know, I've mentioned this many times when I've been talking about, you know, playing melodic solos. Just think in terms of chord notes. So, notice that A sharp that's happening there when we arrive at the F sharp chord. And then I'm putting the featuring the D sharp very prominently there. When we get to the B chord, and then just resolving back into an E major pentatonic for the arrival of the E chord. That's how you develop a melody, or how you can develop a melody. It seems to work for me. Then, as I've also mentioned, I like to have a bit of contrast when I go from one section of a song to another. Key change is often a good way to do that. So, you know, from an E major tonality, let's go to G major. You know, it just provides a nice little lift. And what I did there was I played G, going to B minor, going to F, going to C. A little bit of modal interchange there, you know, and that might remind you of a certain Bob Dylan song concerning a big brass bed. Don't tell Bob. But that first 4 bars of what I think of as the verse section has a very much a descending lilt to it. So for the second half of the verse, the back straight as it were, I decided to sort of counterbalance that by ascending. So we then go from a G to an A minor to a first inversion G, a G over B, and then C to D, which takes me nicely back to the G if I'm happening to go into the next verse, the next cycle of the verse, or C and D will equally resolve to an E major, as you just heard there. As I've said before, it's the old sort of crazy little thing called Love Thing, which is in a different key, but it's basically the same thing. So again, just chord notes there. They're just similar sort of thing. I can't remember what I played on the verse now. I remember kind of, there's a place where I'm playing, I make like going between that B minor, which has the F sharp note in it, to the F, which obviously has an F note in it. That's just a nice opportunity to put a little bit of chromatic movement in from the F sharp in the B minor chord to the F note in the F chord. Just looking for little kind of things like that where I can connect one chord to another as I'm playing like a melodic thing. So once again, you've heard me say this in many videos. Just think of the pentatonic, which is the overall kind of off the peg suit fit for it, you know. So G major pentatonic will work over that whole thing there. It will fit like an off the peg suit, and then you kind of throw in a few extra notes that you've borrowed or kind of harvested, if you like, from the chord sequence at various points, just to make it more of a Savile Row tailored suit. Like I'd know anything about that. Then the middle section, I always like a verse, a chorus, and a middle section. Again, big contrast there. I like the song to feel like it's going somewhere else, so that when you arrive back at a familiar verse or chorus section, it feels like, you know, it just adds that sense of familiarity and just makes you feel like you've arrived home again. So, you know, so far we've had an E major chorus, an intro, a G major verse. Let's go to F major. And what I did here was that old, you know, white a shade of pale thing with a descending bass line. So F, going down to a C with an E bass, D minor 7 over C to B flat. So you can imagine that kind of white a shade of pale. like that. It's Air on a G String by Bach. It's When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge. You know, this is the way you learn to write stuff, really. You just learn loads of songs, and then, you know, you think, well, okay, that particular sequence of chords there delivers that particular mood or overall feel, and it's just like it's like you're collecting recipes, and once you know what proportions to mix things in, which chords to place in which order to create a particular mood, then you've got a vocabulary that you can use. And for the second half of the bridge section, we've arrived at the B flat chord. I just basically do the same thing, but we modulate up to E flat. So we're going E flat to a B flat over D, to a C minor, C minor 7 over B flat, and then the C minor again, but this time with an A bass note. Like that, very dissonant chord. It is actually A minor 7 flat 5, and that, if you follow that with a D chord, will resolve beautifully into the G chord, which is where the next verse arrives. So just listen to this little passage here. You've got the C minor over A bass, which is the A minor 7 flat 5, to a D, to G. It's a form of what's known as a 2-5-1 sequence, and that just delivers me nicely back to the G chord again. So again, just learning these little tricks where you can you can use to connect to a new chord. I learned that probably from well, I think there's something very much like that in the chord sequence of Parisian Walkways, where Gary goes from a B minor 7 flat 5 to an E7 to an A before it goes into that section of the tune. So just again, you learn these things and you catalogue them. You think that'll come in useful one day, and it does. Then once again, for that bridge section melody, it's just string a bunch of chord notes together, connected by whatever is the appropriate pentatonic scale or pentatonic-ish scale. You know, I see the neck mapped out all the time in pentatonic positions, and I can think, well, okay, that chord's got that note in it, so I can add that in, and so on. But you know, the main sort of focal points of the melody are always going to be the notes that are in whatever chord is happening at the time, and that's how I put any tune together, and it's how I put this one together. So if you're feeling a bit creative, take what I've been going on about here and go away and have some fun with it. And as always, you'll find a full tab for that entire tune in both Guitar Pro and PDF formats, along with a clip of me playing it, a jam track to play along with yourself, and that little explanation clip you've just seen there. All of that is up on my Patreon page. There's the address, link in the description, and as I'm sure you know by now, it's $3 or about £3 a month, and you get access to all of these additional goodies and resources which accompany these YouTube videos. And of course, a humongous heartfelt thank you to everyone who supports me in that or any of the other ways, all of which are, you know where, down in the description. And that's it for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the video and found it entertaining and informative, at least in some small way. And if that's the case, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so, and why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't forget, of course, the live stream every Friday 5 PM UK time, where we drink beer and talk, chat about stuff. Basically, that's it. Beer and chat on a Friday. What's not to like about that? It's a great way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.